Roger Philipp is one of the most inspiring voices in the accounting profession today. As the founder and chief creative officer at UWorld CPA Review, Roger has dedicated his career to making learning effective and enjoyable. His philosophy is you should love what you do, whether it's life, business, or learning, and you're going to experience his love of teaching today and also in the course. Roger has a way of turning the hardest concepts into memorable learning experiences and having a great sense of humor along the way. So with that said, I am going to pass it over to Roger to officially start his presentation. Take it away.
Wow. Well, thank you very much. As she mentioned, my name is Roger Philipp. Welcome, welcome. I've been teaching CPA Review for, 38 plus years. I started when I was 4. Our job is to take accounting, give up life, energy, passion, help you accomplish your goal, which is to do what? To sit for and successfully this scary thing called the CPA exam. Now, I started my career at Deloitte & Touche in downtown Los Angeles, where I got my CPA certificate, left there, started teaching CPA Review, and that's basically what I've done for many years full time. So today we're going to talk about what is this scary thing called the CPA exam and how to prepare for the exam. Basically, it's a 16-hour adventure. You're going to have to take 4 parts. Now, I'll talk later about it, but there are 6 different parts. 3 are the core where you have to take those, and 3 are discipline where you get to choose one of those 3. I like to start out by letting people realize this is not an IQ test. You do not have to be a genius to be a CPA, but it's a test of discipline, which means if you study, you will pass. And that's where we come in. Our job is to motivate you for the hundreds of hours it will take in order to properly prepare for the CPA exam. And basically, I would say, let's just say anywhere from 80 to 120 hours per part. So that's kind of a good, let's say 300 to 400 hours of prep time. So here it says how to get from step A to CPA. So first of all, meeting your state CPA requirements, set your CPA exam game plan, and establish good study habits. So we're going to be talking about all of those as we head through this section. Now, as far as meeting your state CPA requirements, and you'll see here on the next slide, each state is different. And what we're saying here is we're kind of saying, okay, what are the requirements? First of all, and I'm going to say in general, but I will mention at the end, there's a QR code that you can click on, and it will give you all the different state requirements. But basically, we have education requirements and requirements to get certified. Educational in general says you have to have generally a degree in hand, of which is 120 units, and that would be 120 semester units. Now, as I said, with the exam, you can take 1 part at a time, and it's given 6 days a week at a testing center called Prometrics, which I'll expand on in a minute. So that's to sit for the exam. To get certified in most states, you need 150 hours. So let's say 120 to graduate, an extra 30 units in order to qualify and get your CPA certificate. Part of that licensure also is you have to work under the supervision of a licensed active CPA. Now, for example, I'm a CPA and I keep my license active. There's active versus inactive. Now, in California, where I live, where we have crazy fires, by the way, but where I live, basically, I need 80 hours every 2 years, a minimum of 20 hours of CPE, continuing professional education, or CE, however you want to say it. It's all the same to me. But basically, I need 80 hours every 2 years to stay active. So in order to get your CPA certificate, you need to work under the supervision of a licensed active CPA. In some states, you need a certain number of hours if you want to do an audit, for example, maybe 250 hours. Now, something that just changed, I think in Ohio, for example, and other states may do this as well, they're reverting back to the old rules, the rules back in 1847 when I became a CPA. Back in my day, and I feel like your parents, when I was your age, what happened? I could sit for the exam within 120 days of graduating. I could sit for the exam. I just needed a bachelor's degree. I didn't need a master's degree, but I had to work for 2 years. So currently, you need more units but fewer years of experience, 1 year in most states. But some states are reverting back that way, which, you know, some people say I'd rather work an extra year in the profession than have an extra year of education. Now, as far as the application process, and again, every state's different. Generally, it's roughly $100 to apply the first time and then $50 for a repeat. Each part is anywhere from $250 to $275. So a figure for 4 parts that you're sitting for, a little over $1,000. Then you get this thing once you apply with the state that you want to practice in, you get this thing called an NTS, a notice to schedule. And basically that says now you can schedule your exams. You want to make sure certain things like your name is exactly the same as on your paperwork. So let's say you did something completely crazy. You got married, I fell in love, I got married, I changed my name. You've got to make sure the name on your ID exactly matches the name on your notice to schedule. Then you sign up to take the exam at different locations, and it's given all over the world. So that would be at a Prometrics testing center where they give different types of exams, including the CPA exam. Once you pass the exam, you get to do something exciting, take the ethics exam. And the ethics exam is a take-home exam, and you've got to get at least a 90% or above in order to pass. And the ethics exam, a lot of times you'll be working with someone and say, hey, which ethics exam did you get, right? Ignore them, right? They're unethical. They're trying to cheat. The point is, it's a bunch of questions that just ask, mainly about independence and things like that. Now you'll see again, as I mentioned here, the QR code, and that QR code will talk about the different state requirements. Now again, people ask about reciprocity. Let's say I'm studying for the exam in Illinois, but I know I'm going to move to Cali. I'm coming back to Cali. So I want to move to California. That's great. You want to look into, okay, what are the requirements in California, knowing that I'm going to shift there or move there. So we do offer reciprocity. Once you're a CPA, it's, there's several ways that you can move from state to state to state. And again, we have some of that information on our website as well. So going back to setting your CPA exam game plan from step A to CPA, the next thing we're going to look at is, okay, how do you set your CPA exam game plan itself? And what I mean by that, as I said, it's not an IQ test, it's a test of discipline. And I always joke, it's not, you don't have to be a genius to be a CPA, right? Look around you in the office. Are they all geniuses? I don't think so. But what does the exam itself include as we talk about setting your CPA exam game plan? Well, as I said, there are different parts. There's a core and discipline. And this was completely revamped for the 2024 exam, which means that if you're using your friends' books from 23, 22, 20, whatever, completely different because things changed, things got shifted, lots of new material got added, and I'll talk about the blueprints a little bit later, which is basically how we set this up. But as far as the exam itself, there are 6 parts. You'll see here 3 strong core, technology infused throughout. And those 3 core parts are going to be regulation, which is kind of like tax, and I'll talk more about the contents in a minute. FAR, which is financial accounting and reporting, like intermediate 1, intermediate 2, advanced, and so on. And then you've got your audit section for the exam as well, planning, internal control, substantive testing, IT, and so on. Those are called the core parts. Everybody has to take those 3. You can take them in any order you want. I could start with FAR or reg or audit, whatever you like. Then we have these 3 disciplines. Now, of the 3 disciplines, you only have to pass 1. You only have to sit for and take and pass 1. The 3 disciplines are BAR, TCP, and ISC, and I'll expand on those in just a minute. But basically, you take 1, you pass it, you're done with the disciplines. If you started with business analysis and reporting, BAR, and you said, and kind of think of BAR as, let's say, advanced accounting topics, and you go, you know what, let me switch to tax, that's TCP. Let me switch to more tech, IT, SOX, that would be ISC. So you can switch between the disciplines. Once you pass a discipline, you're done with the discipline. So again, 3 core, you've got to take and pass all 3. 3 disciplines, you only need to pass any one of those 3 in order to be considered a CPA. And again, you can take those pretty much anytime you want, as I'll expand on in just a minute. As far as those parts, what does it consist of? And that's the next thing I want to talk about. You'll see here on this next slide where we talk about, okay, so what are the contents of the core? What are the contents of the discipline? So you'll see here we've got audit, FAR, and regulation. Let's start with example for auditing. Auditing would be, what did I do when I did at Deloitte? Planning the audit, internal control, substantive testing, IT, our favorite, right? And then drafting the report. So the audit report, in our opinion, the statements referred to above presents fairly in all material respects the financial position of ESCO as of 12/31/X1, the results of its operations and conformity with US, right? I was single for a long time, so anyway, that's part of the audit exam, or maybe SSARX, statements on standards for accounting and review services, compilations, reviews, and so on. So that's the audit exam. Then we have financial accounting and reporting, FAR, and you can kind of think of your intermediate accounting. You've got financial reporting, it says there, select balance sheet accounts, select different types of transactions. So maybe general purpose financial statements, ratio analysis, which we love, balance sheet, cash, receivables, inventory, property, plant, and equipment, how to account for investments, equity, good old revenue recognition. Also, we talk about leases. But you can think of it this way. We have the lessor and the lessee, right? With the lessee, the person leasing or renting it, that shows up on the FAR exam. Whereas in a second, I'm going to talk about kind of more advanced topics. Those advanced topics would be on the BAR exam, which would be the lessor side of it. Then we have taxation and regulation. Regulation, that would be federal tax procedures. It also included business law. Now, business law, that would be like, offer, acceptance, consideration. Those are contracts, or federal laws and regulations like FICA, FUTA, bankruptcy section, Chapter 7, Chapter 11, Chapter 13 reorganization. We've got property tax transactions, a lot of individual tax transactions. We have S Corps, partnerships, C Corps, also tax exempt organizations. That's going to be in the regulation. So those are the three, those are called your core. Everybody has to take them. You can take them in any order you choose. Then we've got these three disciplines. Now, as I said, it says here, you must select at least one of these. So let's start with, for example, BAR. Now, BAR in the middle there, business analysis and reporting, you can kind of think of it as your FAR, but your advanced topics. So maybe we have our favorite, business combinations and consolidations, woohoo! Maybe derivative transactions, pensions, data analytics. As I said earlier, on the FAR exam is the lessee. Here we're looking at the lessor, sales types, and so on. So that would be the lessor accounting. Another area, cost managerial. Remember cost managerial? It's back. Some of us loved it, some of us not so much, but that is a topic that's also in the BAR exam, state and local government as well. Then we've got our TCP, kind of like advanced tax. We've got tax compliance and planning, so that's for individuals, like what are your itemized deductions? What is your AMT, alternative minimum taxation, for example, AMT. Gift tax, right? Hey, I want to give you 18, or I think it went up 19,000 a year. So you can convince your mom and your dad, 19 grand, 38 grand a year tax-free. So you say, hey, you want to get it out of your estate, mom and dad? You can give it to as many people as you want, including me. So that would be called your gift tax transactions. That's also part of the TCP. We talk about entity tax compliance, S Corps, C Corps, partnerships, trusts, good old trusts, entity tax planning, and then planning property transactions, which would be like, what's an ordinary asset? What's a capital asset? What's a 1231 asset? What's a like-kind exchange? What's a wash sale with securities, right? 30 days on each end. So there's stuff that you're going to learn studying for the exam that's actually really practical in life. And that's one of the reasons I love studying accounting, because it's like learning a language. Bonjour, comment ça va? Ja, ich will das machen. Buenos dias. It's like learning a language in that it's a skill that you'll always have. Finally, ISC. Now, ISC is information systems and controls, and that's going to be kind of like things like your SOC report, SOC 1, SOC 2, SOC 3, IT risk management, IT and data governance, SOC for cybersecurity, engagement acceptance, IT risk, IT data, cybersecurity, privacy frameworks, and so on. So those are going to be the elements of what makes up the content for your 2025 exam, and that's the kind of stuff that you're going to see in all the different parts that we're talking about here. Then we go on to the next thing where we talk about the blueprints. Now, what are these things called, the blueprints? Now, the blueprints you'll see is it kind of makes sure that the relevant topics are going to be tested. And when we talk to the AICPA and we say, well, what are you actually looking at? And what they said in the past is they're trying to see what a second-year CPA would be doing in the real world. So if you see on the next slide here, we talk about the blueprints, and basically it maps what you need to know on the CPA exam and how you're going to apply that information. Now, there's been significant updates as far as the blueprints, and these things are changing all the time. For 2025, the good news is there weren't significant changes because they just finished changing from 23 to 24. So there haven't been significant changes from 24 to 25. A couple of the things, for example, with the core sections is now it's continuous testing. And just something that you realize, I've been doing this since 1980 something. The point is, every so often they go through significant big changes on the exam. And when they go through these big changes, they want to make sure they wrote a fair exam that's equally balanced and so on. So that's why when they give the exam, they might wait a month or two like they did in 2024 to release the results, because they want to make sure that the exam is not skewed one way or the other. So that's the kind of thing that they did in 24. For 25, the core sections, FAR, Audit, Reg, are going back to their regular testing, where it's continuous testing. You sign up, you take it, a couple of weeks later, you get your results. The disciplines, however, they're still kind of working out some of the kinks. So with that one, it's basically a quarterly schedule. So as I'll show you in a few minutes with the quarterly schedule, what it's basically saying is that you can take the exam, but you may have to wait a little bit longer to get your results. But as an additional little bonus, they added in June a window. So that way in June, what happens there is that you can then make that adjustment. So with June, for example, that's when you can also sit for the discipline. And when we talk about these blueprints, we're talking about something called Bloom's taxonomy of educational objectives, because they're looking at different types of questions. And they're asking for questions like remembering and understanding, application, analysis, evaluation. And what that means is remembering and understanding tells you it's going to be a multiple choice type questions. Because on the exam, as I'll expand in a minute, we have multiple choice, we have task-based simulations. So with multiple choice, you're going to have, let's say, 4 different choices. You know, think of an A, B, C, D type choice. That would be remembering and understanding. You're memorizing things. Is it T, T, B, P, O, you know, mnemonics and memory, it's help there. Application could be a multiple choice. It could also be a task-based simulation, which is kind of like a little problem where you're going through, maybe you're filling in the blank, maybe you're solving for numbers, maybe you're preparing a more detailed type of question, maybe you're going through and preparing part of a tax return. And then analysis is definitely going to be a task-based simulation. That's going to be a problem to solve. I don't mean it's a problem in your life, but it's a problem to solve. And then evaluation, that still exists, and that is going to be for the audit portion of the exam. Now, a lot of people ask us, they go, well, which part should I take? Like, you know, where should I look at and so on. So you'll see here on the next slide, what we're looking at is we're saying, which sequence should I go in? Well, it's a personal choice. And what I mean by that is, how do you feel? Some people say, let's start with the hardest part first. What's the hardest part? Well, I would say FAR isn't necessarily the most difficult, but it takes the longest to prepare for because there's so much material. So that may take more like 120, 140 hours of prep time, whereas maybe auditing will take 80. But what I like to do as part of the exam is confidence, right? You say, I can do this, I can do this. So a lot of people psych themselves out. So I want you to kind of get a leg up and you go, you know what, I can do this. I suggest you start with a core part, one of those 3 parts, FAR, audit, reg. Let's say, for example, I just graduated college and I had an awesome audit teacher and it's fresh in my head and I just started my job and I'm doing audit. Then maybe I'm gonna start with the audit portion so I can kind of get a leg up on the, I'm trying to lift my leg, but not that flexible. I get a leg up on the exam and go, hey, I passed audit, 1 down, 3 to go. So it's kind of how you are. And sometimes I tell people, maybe watch the first lecture video, do a couple of questions and see which area you feel comfortable in. Now, I want you to realize there's a lot of stuff on the exam you've never seen in school, right? How many of you took every elective in school? Probably not, right? I remember when I was in school, governmental accounting was an elective and I elected not to take it. So the only way I was exposed to it was by taking a review course, which will give you everything you need to pass the exam. So when we give you these beautiful ISC books and so on, then that's what I want you to study. Put away your college books and so on. They're this thick. What we do is we summarize, we simplify it. This is what you need. Just focus in on those books. The other thing I tell people is maybe save the disciplines till last. So I'll do let's say a core. Then the 3rd core would probably be good to relate to the discipline. So let's say I love tax, maybe I'll do reg and then I'll do TCP. Let's say I love intermediate and advanced accounting, maybe I'll do FAR and then I'll drift into bar. Now, audit and ISC, there is some overlap, but not a lot. So ISC is more like, you know what, I'm a tech person. I do SOC audits, for example. I love that kind of stuff. But again, I always suggest people kind of look at a video or two to kind of get a feel for what part you want to sit for. As far as the CPA exam breakdown, and you'll see here, this is the breakdown of the 2025 exam. And the way that it's set up is we have, as I said, you have multiple choice questions and you have task-based simulations. And think of the TBS are like a problem. Now with the multiple choice, each part has 2 testlets. There's 5 testlets in total. Testlet 1, testlet 2 are multiple choice questions. Testlet 3, 4, and 5, those are going to be task-based simulations. Now you'll notice there the total. So what I want to look at or talk about is all of these with the exception of ISC, because all of these exams are 50% multiple choice, 50% task-based simulation. So that's how your grade is determined. 50% of your score is going to be from multiple choice, 50% from task-based simulation. You'll notice though on those 5 parts, not including ISC, is you've got anywhere from 50 to 78 multiple choice and anywhere from 7 to 8 task-based simulations. So that's for those parts. Now again, each part is the same length, 4 hours in length. So each part is 4 hours in length. And as I said, you go to a testing center called Prometrics, you sign up, you show up. On the day of your exam, anything that can happen will happen. Leave early, get there early, study in the car, study on the public transportation, whatever you're gonna do. So basically you go in, you take the exam, and then what we suggest is halfway through the exam, they offer you a break at about 2 hours. You should be right around the end of testlet 3. So that means you can take a break after testlet 1, but don't take a break because the clock keeps ticking. After testlet 2, don't take a break. After testlet 3, take a break. And then you've got about a 15-minute break, but you need to get back to your seat, otherwise the clock starts running. Then you've got testlets 4, testlet 5. But again, I want you to see how you'll see different numbers of multiple choice, different task-based simulations. The one exception is ISC, which is this, Information Systems and Control. That part is 60% multiple choice and 40% task-based simulations. You've got 82 multiple choice there, and you've got task-based simulations is 40% of your score of 6 of those. But again, each part is, don't forget, a 4-hour exam. Now, when you pass a part, I'll show this to you in a minute, when you pass a part, in my day, we had 18 months to get through the rest. Now you've got about 30 months. And that's going to be in most jurisdictions. Some, they're talking about 36 and so on. But as I'll show you that in just a minute. But when you say, okay, here's an exam, and I keep saying it's not an IQ test. You don't have to be a genius to be a CPA. Heck, I passed it, right? However, it's a test of discipline. It's a lot of studying. If you study, you will pass. Our job is to make sure you don't burn out. That's why our lectures have to be exciting, dynamic, captive, and pull you in. So what's the passing score? Boom, 75 and above. 75 and above, woohoo, I'm a CPA. 74 and below, darn, I came this close to passing the exam. I think I'll have a drink. But what I want you to realize, if you got a 75 in your last college midterm, what does that feel like? It feels like C, a C, average. That's what C in CPA stands for, average. So you don't have to be a genius. However, you need to put the hours in. You need to know a little bit about a lot of information. It's like a lake that's an inch deep, but a mile wide. But you've got a minute and a quarter to jump from multiple choice question to question to question to question. So that's why the repetition's important, because in your brain, I got to go from bonds, leases, pensions, deferred taxes, contingent liabilities, consolidation, and you've got to be able to jump around. That's where the preparation up front really pays off. That's where it really makes a difference. So that's when you have to put the time in. The next thing you'll see here, it talks about the pass rates. Now with the pass rates, and that's come up quite a bit lately, is people want to know, well, how did people do on the 2025 exam? Now you'll notice here that these are the cumulative rates that we have. They have not released Q4 yet. They're going to do that in the next few weeks. But basically what this is saying is, these are the pass rates. Audit 47%, okay, FAR 41%, reg is what, 63%. Wow, does that mean it's an easier exam? Probably not. What it means is those going in may have been more prepared. And what the AICPA said is probably a lot of tax professionals were sitting for that part, especially when it converted, because in 2023, they had to study all of this because it was all in reg. In 2024, some of it was in reg and some of it got pushed over to TCP. So that's where they're thinking that maybe those results are higher. What about, for example, the disciplines? For the disciplines, we've got BAR, ISC, and TCP. For BAR, we had a 41%. And remember, BAR, kind of think of an advanced intermediate, advanced financial. For ISC, 59%. So even though it was a new exam, it was a little bit higher than some of the others. And then finally, TCP, again, people, wow, how do they do so well? again, the AICPA is saying that they felt like they were, there was some overlap between the old reg and TCP, and also that the candidates, a lot of them were working in the tax world and tax practitioners, and that probably helped it as well. But we tell you, and the AICPA says too, don't pick a discipline based on these pass rates. You should pick a discipline based on your interests and your strengths. What is it you're interested in? What is it that motivates you? Because it's still a lot of work, it's still a lot of studying. Also, they say that the AICPA expects that over time it will get more normalized, which means that, for example, maybe TCP will get a little harder, and maybe, for example, bar will get a little bit easier because bar was the lowest one. But again, those are some of the adjustments that we're going to see over time. And again, there's adjustments to be made. Now, we get about a 94% pass rate. What does that mean? If you do what we tell you to do, you're going to get through the exam. The other question is, people go, well, how do I choose which discipline to take? Again, that's kind of an individual choice. As I said, if you're doing reg, TCP kind of goes hand in hand. FAR, bar kind of goes hand in hand. ISC is not as related, but I've gotten a lot of great feedback from students who have taken our ISC and passed, and they said, wow, your lectures, your videos, your content, your materials really overlap with some of the stuff that I'm doing in the real world, especially if you're doing things like a SOC audit. So part of it is what interests you, part of it is maybe what are you going to be doing with your career. Now, as far as when I pass a part, how long do I have to get through the rest? And in the olden days, as I said, it was about 18 months, so in my day. Now they've extended it to 30 months. And the good news about that, what that means is that I've studied, I passed a part, and that's why we used to start with FAR, because once you pass it, the clock would tick. Well, the clock still ticks, but you've got anywhere from 30 to 36 months. And you can see in the map, most of them are 30. There's still some discussion. However, again, you can look on our website to get anything updated as far as what the current rules are. But think of it basically about 30 months. So you shouldn't run out of time. In other words, in my leg, you had to take all 4 parts at once. You had to pass at least 2 parts. You had to get at least a 50% on the parts not passed. So I had to study all 4 parts, and the exam was given twice a year, May and November. So I had 6 months to study. And even if I got a 99, 99, 99, but if I got a 49 on that 4th part, I kept nothing. Now you study for a part, take a part, study for a part, take a part. It doesn't make the exam easier, but what's nice is for that month of study time, I'm focusing on one main part. And that's what, now the other thing you'll notice as you study one part, then another part, that by the 3rd and 4th part, all of a sudden the lights go on. You go, oh, I see how it all is interrelated. I see how tax relates to financial accounting, which relates to the audit we're going to be doing, which relates to the SOC engagement. So there's a lot of overlap, which you may not see right away, because I know how most of us went through school. We start out, we go, this semester, this quarter is going to be different. I'm not going to fall behind, I promise. And then you go to class, you get your syllabus, and you go to the bookstore and you buy your most expensive book. I'm going to study, I'm going to study, I'm going to study. And hey, Roger, toga party, okay. And then it's the night before the midterm. You cram. You go and take the exam, blow it out your brain. This CPA exam is the comprehensive final you've never seen in school. That's why there's stuff you've never seen. There's stuff you memorized, saw, but don't remember. What we do is we don't try to teach it to you to memorize it. We teach it to you so you understand it. So you see the big picture. So instead of memorizing, you're understanding, which helps you to get through the exam, and it helps you to be what? A better CPA. Now, as far as the testing schedules, you'll see this on the next slide. As I said here, the core sections you'll see on one side and the disciplines on the other. With the core sections, now they're getting more back to the continuous release. So you test by the end of January 23rd of this year. The target score release date starts February 7th. So notice that if I study and I put in the time and then I get my results and darn, I got a 73, 75 and above is passing, woo, 74 and below is fail. So you know what? Let me do a little Taylor Swift, shake it off. Sit down, study again, because I'm close. I just need a little more. I missed a couple of multiple choice too many. Plus, I'm not going to see the same TBS. Whatever was on my exam the first time won't be there the second time, most likely. So maybe I was strong in this and weak in this, and I just happened to get 2 task-based simulations that I was weak in. This time's a new exam. a new outlook, I can pass. But you'll notice that you get your results pretty quickly. As far as the disciplines, as I said, generally they're going through every quarter and they're releasing it. One of the nice things for this time is they're going to release a new window in June, so that way you can study for June and then get the results. Now, eventually the goal is to go back where the disciplines are also like the core, which means that it's going to be a continuous testing type of experience. And as I said, the exam changed in 2002, I think it became computerized. 2003, they added BEC. I mean, it's always changing, but there's always a little bit of a lag because they got to make sure that they wrote a good exam, a fair exam, and that's exactly what they did here for 2024. That's why in 2025, it's shifting back over. So now you're sitting here saying, okay, Raj, from A to CPA, I'm excited, I'm motivated, I can pass this CPA exam. What do I need to do? How do I get through it? I'm so excited. And I say, you know what? We need to set up a study schedule. So how do I go about setting up this kind of study schedule? First of all, build a support system. Tell your parents, tell your friends, tell your loved ones, hey, I love you guys, but I'm going to be pretty busy for a while. What does that mean? I love you. I'll see you in about 6 months. Okay. And if they're still around, they love you. If not, you'll find someone better when you become a CPA. Then clear your calendar of distractions. So that means, you know what, I'm not going to plan a vacation. I'm not going to do that, or my vacation's going to be studying, right? You need to make this a priority. I mean, I've had these people that are studying and they've never passed. They don't put the hours in. And then they take it again and again and again. It becomes like a thorn in their foot, and they won't get promoted at work. Some firms won't promote you beyond senior, some firms up to manager. Now, if you're bringing in a lot of money, sometimes they'll look the other way, give you a little bit more time, but you can't be a partner without a CPA. So you want to get through this as early in your career as possible, because believe it or not, life only gets busier, right? When you first get out of school and you're studying for this exam, it's a highly academic exam. In other words, stuff you've been studying in school is stuff you'll see on the exam. Also, 50% of the exam or 60% in ISC is multiple choice. It's rare in life that someone says, hey, Raj, the second internal control structure element, is it A, control environment, B, control activities, C, risk assess? People don't do that, right? But that's part of the exam, and that's a different way of thinking. But as you move up in your career, you get busy and it's hard to make the time. So I suggest you set up a calendar. Avoid distractions. Study at the same time every day. And they've done a study on this, and they said that if you sit down and study at the same time every time, it takes less time to get into it. So let's say I'm going to go to work, I'm working, I get home, 6:30, I'm going to have some dinner, get ready. So I'm going to study every day from 7:30 to 9:30, Monday through Friday, or Monday through Thursday. Friday, I'll see friends. And then I'm going to take half a day on Sunday, go to the library and study. That's great. But do it the same way. So the first day I sit out at 7:30, there's, oh, I've got to do this. My pencils are sharp, my paper, my this, my computer's this. Oh, my mouse is dirty, my screen's dirty. I better get some spray. You do all these stuff. So the first day you start studying 30 minutes in, then 25, then 20, then all of a sudden I sit down the next 3 days later and 7:32 I'm studying. So try to set up a very efficient way to study at the same time. We also have this thing called a UWorld planner, which is a dynamic study organization. What this does is you put in your exam dates, it backs into today and says, how much time do I need to study, how many hours a day in order to accomplish that goal? So use all of these great tools that we're providing you, because it'll help make your studying more effective and more efficient. Then schedule your exams early. What does that mean? It means don't wait too long. In other words, some people say, you know, and I'm going to wait till I feel prepared. You never feel prepared, right? It's like marriage. Just jump in, right? Because you never feel ready. You don't go, oh, yeah, I think I'm ready for the exam. And I always tell my students, when you walk out of the exam, don't talk to each other, because you never feel good, right? You don't walk out and go, that was easy. If you do that, you probably didn't pass. When you walk out and you're like, wow, was that even in English, right? That means you knew the material well, and you're reading maybe a little bit into it, but it means that you really studied hard. So what I always say is kind of schedule your exams early, maybe every month and a half, 2 months. That way you've got time between the exam to take a day or two or a week off, and then jump into the next part. Also, we give you schedule advising sessions. So those are included with our product. That says that I want to talk to a counselor, someone who's walked through this with hundreds and hundreds of students. Let me schedule some time so I can sit down and talk with them. Then we talk about, well, UWorld. So what does UWorld help you to do? What do we do here in the next slide? We help you to prepare smarter, faster, right? We help you to achieve your career goals. And as I said, if you study, you will pass. What happens is people just stop studying because they burn out, life gets in the way. That's why what's great about UWorld is our lectures are exciting, they're dynamic, they're energetic, they're going to keep you focused, right? We have focused, motivated discipline. So we have high energy lectures, right? Hopefully you're staying awake during this 1 hour presentation on the exam. That's exactly how our lectures are set up. The materials, they're clear, concise, complete. Everything you need is here. We have detailed solutions, which I'll show you in a minute. But I brought my Roger CPA review course and joined forces with UWorld, and they spent millions of dollars rewriting my solutions and making them beautiful. And I'll show you those in a minute. You have unlimited access to the course, and of course, we have special firm contracts and firm discounts, so you can reach out to us about that as well. As far as the 2025 UWorld course, it was updated for the 2025 exam. Again, 2024 was the biggest changes, 2025 updated, content mapped to the AICPA blueprints, right? And we have a great team of educators, including myself, including Peter Olinto, which you'll see on the next slide, right? There we go. Hi. He used to work for one of our competitors. We also acquired Wiley Efficient Learning, and we molded all that information into our course as well. And it's a proven methodology, and that's why, for example, we get such high pass rates, right? The highest documented pass rates in the industry, 94%. As far as the professors, the lectures, you'll see here we have a huge number of professors, I think 14 different professors that are PhDs, that focus in on areas, that are practitioners, that are working in the real world, and they're people that are experts in the industry that they are teaching. And that helps to teach you what you need to know to keep you excited and focused. And again, that leads to our dynamic lectures as well. Now, as far as, and you'll see here in the next few slides, here's a lecture, here's part of the book. So it has there a breakdown of the sections. Then you've got a picture with the lecture, and then you'll see the book on the side. You can highlight, you can mark, and so forth as you're going through it. The next one you'll see here, how the content's aligned with the AICPA blueprints. These are the blueprints where it talked about, remember I mentioned Bloom's taxonomy of objectives, remembering, understanding, application, analysis, evaluation. So we get this from the AICPA where they're basically saying to us, hey, these are the areas and how we're going to test it. As I said earlier, if it's remembering and understanding, it tells you it's going to be a multiple choice type question. If it's application, it could be multiple choice or TBS. If it's analysis, it's going to be a TBS, a problem, and evaluation, that is for auditing. You'll see in the next one here that we're continuing on with how it's aligned with the curriculum there. It says, again, the materials and then the details. Go to the next one. We have a lot of visualizations. You'll see here's a question with a solution. So we give you a question, we give you the solution, how people did on it, and then we start to get into the detail of it. But what you'll see here is we don't just give you why answer A is right and why B, C, and D is wrong, but we will give you all of the explanation detail. We give you a diagram for every single, this is where, as I said, I had an answer, I had a good answer, a good solution. Now they give you pictures, they give you summaries. At the bottom, they give you things to remember, key takeaways. So at the end, we want you to know the what, the why, and the how behind every single one of these answers. So you'll see the question in detail, and I implore you to compare our solutions to anyone else in the industry. Our solutions will blow them away because we want you to do a question and learn from the solution. So when you read that solution, you understand clearly not just why A is right, but why B, C, and D are wrong, and the detail of it. Because on your exam, you won't see the exact same question, but on your exam, they're going to change a word in the question, which changes the answer from A to B. That's what we want you to understand in detail as you're going through that question. You'll also see here in the next slide that we talk about our SmartPath technology, and basically that's the software that we have created, which helps to make your study time much more effective, much more efficient. We'll break it down and say, okay, here are areas that you're strong, here are areas that you're weak, and let's say an area has 85 questions. Well, we'll say, you know what, you're doing so well, you don't have to do 90% of those questions, maybe you'll do fewer. So we keep track of how many questions there are, and we keep track of how well you're doing, and that will help to keep you focused, and it will help to keep you much more efficient in your studying. Because a lot of us, we go, you know what, I love accounts per percentage credit sales, aging of AR, I love receivables, that's fun, it's exciting. Let me keep studying it. No, you got it. Let's move on to the areas where you're weak. How do we know that you're weak? Because of our SmartPath SmartPath technology, which is keeping track of how your studying is going, where you're strong, where you're weak. As far as our dynamic study planners, again, same kind of thing. It'll keep you effective, efficient, keep you organized, keep your study times on schedule. Helps to reduce procrastination. We can't eliminate it, but we'll try to reduce that procrastination. And it basically maps out how my days are going to be going and how flexible my schedule is going to be and when I need to study. Now, to help you study, we also offer these boot camps, and these boot camps are free. Basically, they're for the core parts, FAR, audit, reg. Basically, we're going to offer these where you have a chance to go in and, Fred, I'm Peter Alinto and others are teaching these, and it gives you a chance to go in there, and it's offered for 2 core sections at a time, very interactive. It focuses on the highly tested areas, covers multiple choice questions. We'll go through task-based simulations together. The main thing is it's free, free. We love free. So you'll see here a QR code. Go ahead and click on that, or if there's anything that you missed or you want more information on afterwards, reach out to us. That's why we're here. What does your course include? You'll see here includes everything you need to, CPA exam success. I love this one. Somebody, we get these all the time. I mean, I've been doing this for so many years, but it says, it was great. With great pride, I announced that I passed all 4 parts of the exam, which is awesome. And it says here, I especially want to thank the remarkable Roger Philipp, hello, and those at UWorld CPA Review, because the review course, I passed all 4 parts in the very first attempt in 8 months and test taking in 11 months of study. All right. Thanks, Mom. I love you too. No, I'm just kidding. The point is, that's one of our students who is thankful and happy that you made the right choice, that you took our course, that you got through the exam. And again, you're all smart. You will pass the exam. We're trying to make it less painful. We're trying to make it enjoyable. So if you study, you're going to pass. Our job is to motivate you to put the hours in so you will get through the exam. You'll see here we also offer things. Oh, here we go. We have the course material. So you get 6 courses, and the 6 courses, 3 are the core, and then you need just to pass one of the disciplines. 8,000 plus questions, new vector videos, and those are things that I'm updating. I have a studio here that I work on and excite and try to make it exciting. You got a picture of some of the different instructors that are there as well. SmartPath technology is included. Unlimited course access, right? And of course, those study planners, which will help to keep you focused to accomplish the goal, which is to get through the exam. The next one here, you'll see, boom, ask about preferred pricing. So we have deals with firms, and you can reach out to us at any time to discuss that as far as our pricing. And if you work at a firm and you want us to help us establish any kind of firm deal, please reach out to us as well, as we're always adding more firms and schools and universities to our programming.
And I just wanted to add, we also have deals at several, shouldn't say several, at many universities and CPA state societies. So if you scan that QR code, it'll take you to a form where you can submit your name and your email, and we'll get back and let you know if we have a deal with any organization that you're involved with.
Very good. And then we also become a UWorld ambassador. Basically, you can promote us on campus or within the firm, set up speaking opportunities, kind of the liaison between UWorld and your campus or your firm as well. And the benefit to you is you get a free review course. And again, you can kind of scan that QR code or reach out to us and contact us. But again, anything you can do to help spread the word about our amazing course, we always appreciate. And again, what I wanted to say, the bottom line is if you study, you will pass. Your job is to put in the hours. If you study and you put in the hours, you will get through the exam. It is not an IQ test. You don't have to be a genius. It's a test of discipline. And I'm so glad I got my CPA, because once you have it, it's something you'll have forever. And I always say that when I die, I'm going to put it on my tombstone. Here lies Roger Philipp, CPA. Fully depreciated, right? Because I'm done. But anyway, that was an accounting joke. But the point is that it's something that you will always have. It gives you credibility, whether you change jobs, change professions, whatever you do in life. I highly recommend put the hours in. It's worth it. Thank you very much. Now what we're going to do is some Q&A. If there's any questions, hopefully we'll give you some good answers, and you'll be happy to hear what it is we have to talk about. Yes.
Yeah, we've been getting some fantastic questions throughout the webinar, and there were a lot of questions that were submitted when people registered. So are you ready to spend some time answering live questions?
Sure, ready.
All right, I'm going to fire them off. First question is, I just bought new printed materials last year. Do these changes require another book set purchase?
No, I would say you do not need a new book set. Sometimes there's significant changes to the content. This year, there has not been a lot of content changes. There have been some video updates and so on. But one of the nice things when you go into your UWorld program, you'll see the lecture videos. It'll say new, and it'll tell you if there's any new video that's been put in there. And also, as you're going through it, all the books online are always updated. Those are exactly what you need to do. So if you're going through and you see something's a little different, we may have added a sentence or a paragraph or something, nothing major. But if there's significant changes, there aren't for this year, for 2025, but if there were, that's when we suggest that you reach out, and you could always purchase an individual book or a whole set of books if needed. The other thing I want to mention, because I know how this works, a lot of times people share their books. From 2023 and earlier, don't waste your time, please, because you will spend more time studying stuff that's not on your exam anymore or on a different section, especially because back in the day there were 4, now there's 6 parts. So again, I always, when I tell people, let's say you took a part and you studied and you didn't pass, you want a clean set of books, reach out to us, get a clean, nice, clean, fresh start, because the other one's all marked up and highlighted and so on. But as far as content, you should be fine with the current books from 2024.
Okay, thank you. Next question, how do I stay focused, consistent, and determined when, as a working professional, I work really long hours?
Exactly. It's the same problem we all have, right? Whatever it is. I want to go to the gym regular. I want to eat better. I want to quit smoking and drinking. Anyway, the point is you need to be disciplined, right? That's why, and that's where our study planners come in. You need to set up a schedule. You need to have a goal. I always say, I give this to my nephews. I go, here, you got to set a 1-year, 5-year, 20-year plan. What does 20 years look like? How do I get there? Back in today and figure it out. Same thing with the exam. I want to get through this exam like that testimonial. I want to get through it in the next 12 months. Okay, what do I need to do? I need to get there. I need to study for a few months, and then I need to book my exams. So if I know I'm taking an exam every 8 weeks, let's say every 2 months, then my goal is I'm going to start with the first one. The first 2 months, I'm going to stick my nose to the grindstone, get there and get through that first part. Then I'm going to come up for air, and then I'm going to study for that. So you need to set those goals. You need to set up a study schedule weekly, so that maybe 3 nights, but it's got to be realistic, right? You're not going to come home from work and study 8 hours a day. You can't do it. If I have let's say I graduate school and then there's a gap between starting work. So if I've got no school, no work, no life, no friends, I have students that take 2.5 months off, study for all 4 and get through all 4. You can do that, but most of us have a job and career, or some people have kids and so on. So you've got to balance that out, but you've got to, again, set it with the goal of, let's say, getting through it in the next 10 to 12 months. Here's the study planner I'm going to use. And that's why we have counseling sessions too, to assist you if you need that input from us.
That's a good segue to the next question, which is, what is the optimal schedule to study in your opinion? For example, how many hours a day, how many days a week? That sort of thing.
I would say same kind of thing. Yeah, I would set it up where maybe 3. I mean, back in my day, I would study on my own a couple of nights a week, and then I would meet a friend at the library on Sundays, and we would study in the same room, but study our own stuff. But the benefit was, when I didn't understand something, I asked him and he would explain it to me. If he didn't understand something, I would explain it to him. And you think you know something until you try to explain something, right? You explain it to him, you go, I understand this, and they go, why? Why? Like a little kid, why? And then you go, maybe I don't quite understand it. So I always say it's nice to study with somebody, because then you don't feel like you're the only one going through this. But as far as a study schedule, I would say, let's say 2 to 3 nights a week. And then I would pick a whole day on the weekend to really focus. And then maybe about a week and a half before, that's when I would really kind of cram, go back through. And that's where your SmartPath software comes in, because it keeps track of where you're strong, where you're weak. So that last 2 weeks, I can focus on the areas that I was weak in.
That's great advice. Okay, question about the disciplines. How can we better prepare for the ISC discipline?
The ISC, I mean, this is a relatively new one. I would suggest just when you get our materials, focusing in on what it is that we are giving you. And actually, one of the things, when you first write an exam, or you're first writing a book and so forth for an exam, that we're not writing the exam, but we get some information, some blueprints, and then we cover it. And we had a team that spent, they read everything out there, summarized it, simplified it, and then wrote the book. And then we created the videos, in which I'm in a lot of the ISC videos. And we just got some beautiful testimonials back from students who are saying, wow, I work in the world. I work doing engagements, and your videos were amazing. So what I tell people is don't pull outside resources because you're studying of, 100 hours of studying will go to 200, 300, 400 per part. We don't want to do that. Stay focused. Take what we give you, look at the lectures, look at the videos, look at the materials, and go through all the solutions. But the most important thing is read every solution in detail, because we spent so much time with the diagram, the picture. And again, the key is not to memorize it. The key is to understand it. That's where we want you to go through it. And that's why we have those boot camps too, to kind of help you to summarize as a final review.
Okay, when do I know I'm ready to schedule my exam?
When do you know you're ready to get married? You never know, right? And don't wait until you feel good, because you never feel good. It's kind of like I said, after the exam, nobody walks out feeling great except those that didn't study. But same thing with preparedness. If you sit there, I mean, I've had students, I've been doing this for 30 plus years. I've had students that go, I haven't sat because I don't feel ready. I go, you're never gonna feel ready. Just jump on in and take it. Because once you take it and you walk out, you go, oh, you know what? Maybe I didn't prepare enough, I didn't prepare properly, but you know what? I know it's doable. I know I can do this. And that's why I tell people jokingly, a 75 and above is a C. You're a C student, you passed the exam. The point being that part of this is confidence. That's why earlier I said, start with a part that you feel good about. I just got out of school, studied audit, feel good about audit. Let me take that first, because I feel confident. And again, you're never gonna feel ready. That's the key, because most of us are used to getting A's and B's in school. We're good students, we're intelligent, but this is a huge exam, a little bit about a lot of information. And as I said, you're jumping in a minute and a quarter from topic to topic to topic to topic. That takes study. That takes practice to be able to go in your brain from one area to the other. So you're never going to really feel ready. Obviously, you need to get through all the material. You need to get through the questions. You need to look at your software, which tells you where you're strong and weak. If everywhere you're weak, maybe you're not ready, go through it a little bit more. But if you're getting close, you're getting 70s, 80s, and so on consistently, you know what? Jump in and let's take a chance.
Okay. Do you suggest maximizing the gap in time between each exam to study more, or try to finish all the exams as soon as possible?
I would say part of that is, again, how much time, a lot of times we have great intentions. And I'm going to get through this in 2 months. And then we have a date scheduled and we're coming up to it. And we realize, I got to get more efficient and study a little bit more. So I would say we're kind of, I would schedule maybe the first or second exam. Don't schedule the third and fourth one yet. But in your mind, my goal is to do one every 2 months. But as you start to go, you realize, studying takes a little bit longer than we planned. And that's where you really need the repetition to get through all the questions, because there's a lot of material. I mean, there's a lot of concepts here. So I wouldn't book all 4 exams right away with Prometrics, but I would go ahead and book maybe the first and the second. And that way so I would try to stick to maybe, again, hours figure 80 to 120. And you look at your life and go, can I get 80 to 120 hours in the next 6 weeks? If I can't, then maybe it needs to be 8 weeks. And then I need a little bit of time to prepare. So I would say probably about, like that person that wrote the testimonial, they passed all 4, they did 8 months, which is, every 2 months. But again, obviously they were very motivated, very dead. The other thing too is when you start working at a firm, a lot of firms will give you a bonus, ka-ching, right? If you pass it in the first year. So that should be motivation as well, that within the first year of starting your job, I'd like to get this thing done. And as I said, especially because as you move up to senior, to manager, and so on, your responsibilities become more at work. You have a little less time outside. So get it done as soon as possible.
Yeah, I mean, I would add a lot of states have voted to go to 30 or 36 months to allow, but planning for 30 or 36 months might just be stretching it out.
Right, but it's nice to know that, like I said, I used to have a lot of students in the olden days who when they had 18 months, they would pass a part, and then the last part dragged on, and then they would lose the legs and have to start all over. Now with 30 months, that's beautiful because there's no excuse. Once you pass that part, you've got to stay motivated though. Try not to get life and everything else get in the way. You've got to stay motivated because you want to get this thing through. And as I said jokingly, I'm proud of my CPA. It's something I have forever. And a lot of times you change jobs, you change careers, but putting that CPA on your resume will always look good. It gives you credibility. They know you're intelligent, ambitious, driven. They know that you're a go-getter, that you're going to be a good fit for the firm. So it's kind of like being an actor. Your typecast is being really conservative and honest and intelligent. That's a good thing to be.
Yeah. Okay, we got time for one more question. So here it is. What
Yes, it's
is
my real hair.
recommended?
Thanks for, no, I'm just kidding. Yeah, what was your question?
We've had quite a few people asking about this during the session. What is recommended to do while I wait for my exam results? Should I start studying for another section? Should I focus on areas that might overlap? What do you recommend during the waiting period?
Well, the good news is, as you saw, now it's going to continuous testing for the core, and then by next year, the discipline, should be the same way, which means that it cuts down the time. But for example, in 2024, students would take a part and have to wait 2 or 3 or 4 months. So, now you take a part, a couple of weeks later, you'll have the results for the core. My suggestion is, if it was going to be many, many months, then I would jump into a new part and start studying, because anything you start studying, that's not wasted. It takes time just to get the big overview and then get into the specifics. Now that I can take a part in January and get the results by February, I might start a new part, but then and again, you're never going to feel good. You don't walk out feeling good, and a lot of times you walk out not feeling good and you pass. So I would probably start on the next part to start to get a foundation. Then if I got the results and darn, I got a 68 and I didn't pass, I would immediately go back to that part, see where I was strong, because you get kind of little you get some information from the AICPA on areas you were strong and weak. Then I would go back and then I would again see if there's any updates to material, and then I would jump back into that, immediately get it through. Because I always tell people, I gave you the exam today, you get like a 20. So if I got a 65, darn, but I went from 20 to 65, so I got a lot of data, I got a lot of information. I just need a little bit more to get me over that hump so I can pass the exam. So I don't want you to forget that 45% you picked up. I would get in, finish that part, and then go to the next part. That would be my suggestion. And now, since the time between taking and sitting is shorter, that's great. I would just, if it's longer, start a new part. If it's only going to be a week or two, then maybe I'd start a new part, or I would take a little break, and then I would get the results and see, pass the part, boom, jump into the next one.
Okay, great advice. Thank you, Roger. I just
Thank you.
wanted to wrap up by acknowledging we got so many questions today. We didn't have time to address them all live or even in the background. So if you had a question, a burning question that didn't get answered, you can email us at support@uworld.com and we will follow up with you that way. And thank you so much to everyone who attended, and thank you, Roger, for the amazing presentation. This recording of today will be emailed to everyone who registered early next week, so keep an eye out for that. Thank you
so much, and good luck with the exam, and good luck with your career. Thank you.